Hello everyone, this is Misha Houston, and I'm here to do my review for Game of Thrones. Tonight's episode is entitled The Queen's Justice, and I thought it was a very good episode, and I also think that it was very ironic. It was a lot of irony running through the veins of this episode. So I just want to say thank you to the writers and thank you to George R. R. Martin, and I think they're really doing a good job with this season. So thank you so much. The first group of people we go to is Jon, Daenerys, Tyrion, Davos, Missandei, and the Dothraki. Jon and Davos come to Dragonstone by boat. Tyrion and Missandei meet them on the beach. Tyrion addresses Jon as the bastard of Winterfell, and Jon responds saying that you are the dwarf of Casterly Rock. They both smile and shake hands. Tyrion says the last time he saw Jon was at the wall. Jon remembers him pissing off the edge of it. Jon then notices Tyrion's facial scars, and then Tyrion says it has been a very long road, but we're both still here and still alive. Tyrion introduces himself to Davos and notes that they both fought on opposite sides during the Battle of Blackwater Bay. Tyrion then introduces Missandei as Dany's most trusted advisor. Missandei expects them to give over their weapons, which Jon and Davos reluctantly do. The Dothraki take their boats and weapons. As they are walking to the castle, Davos asks Missandei about where she was born, and Missandei says, "I was born on the island of Narth." Davos says that he's heard that island was very beautiful, but he has never been. Then Davos whispers to Jon, saying that this place has changed since the last time he was there. And it has. Everything has changed since the last time he was there. Everything has changed. Tyrion asks about Sansa's well-being, and Jon says that she is fine. Then Tyrion teases Jon, saying, does she miss me? Tyrion assures Jon that the marriage was a farce and completely unconsummated. Tyrion also compliments Sansa, saying that she is more clever than people give her credit for. Then Tyrion wants to know how a man of the Night's Watch became King of the North. Jon says, "I want to know how Tyrion became Hand of the Queen." Tyrion says it was a long story, and he was drunk through the most of it. Jon says that his bannermen think he's a fool for coming here. And then Tyrion says, if he was his hand, I would think that he was a fool too. Tyrion says the Starkmen don't do well in the south, but Jon responds saying that I'm not a Stark. Just then, the dragons fly overhead, and Jon and Davos duck. Tyrion says that you never get used to seeing them. Davos and Jon are amazed by the dragons, and I don't blame them for that because they are amazing creatures. They really are. Now, the next group we go to is Varys and Melisandre. Varys wonders why she was not there to greet Jon, seeing as she was the one who arranged the meeting. Melisandre says that she's done her part, bringing ice and fire together. Varys wonders, since she spoke so highly of Jon, why is she hiding on a cliff? Melisandre says she's done whispering in the ears of kings. Varys doesn't believe her, saying that once the commoners have a taste of power, nothing is more sweeter. Melisandre says neither one of them are commoners anymore. Melisandre admits that she and Jon parted on bad terms, and she's trying to keep her distance. She made terrible mistakes with him and with Stannis, and now she just wants to go back to Volantis. Varys thinks that it is wise for her to leave because it may not be safe for her. But she says that I'm coming back one more time. She says that it is my destiny to die in this strange country, just like him. You know, it's funny that Varys has such a hatred for magic and for people who practice magic, because I've always seen him as a very mystical character. I mean, I just feel that he has a magical presence to him, whether he wants that or not. I've always seen him as a very mystical, magical person. Some people have that quality in him, and I think Varys does have that quality in him. The next group of people we go to is Jon, Davos, Missandei, Daenerys, Tyrion, Varys, and the Dothraki. In the throne room, Dany is announced with all of her titles running behind her name like a poodle. Davos says that this is Jon Snow, King of the North. Dany calls Jon my lord, but Davos corrects her, saying that Jon is the King of the North. Then Dany mentions Torrhen Stark, the king who knelt before the Targaryens. Dany says that the oath that Torrhen gave goes on in perpetuity. She expects Jon to bend the knee, but Jon says he will not. Then she asks him, "Are you here to break faith with the Targaryens?" Jon tells her that your father murdered my grandfather and my uncle. Then Dany asks Jon for forgiveness, and asks him not to judge her by her father's actions. She says that there was a great alliance between the Starks and the Targaryens, and she wants to preserve that. She says that she will make him warden in the north if he would kneel and pledge the north to her. She says that the Targaryen reign was peaceful, which was an absolute lie. Thousands died, and half of those Targaryens were crazy. The Targaryens brought anything but peace. That was an absolute lie, and I can't believe she said that. She says that she is the last Targaryen, and she expects him to honor Torrhen Stark's pledge. Jon tells her, "You are not responsible for what your father did." But he says he is also not beholden to the ancestors' pledge. Jon says that he is here because they need each other's help. Dany thinks because she has the dragons, the Dothraki, and the Unsullied, that she doesn't need anyone's help. Davos says, "Not against Cersei. You could take that any time." And then Jon says, "The reason that I know you're not taking King's Landing just yet is because you don't want many people to die. You don't want innocent people to die." And then he compliments her, saying that in that regard, you're better than Cersei. Then Jon tells her, "You, me, and Cersei are nothing but children playing at a game, saying that the rules are not fair." Dany whines that he won't call her queen. Jon says, "We will all die if we don't defeat the enemy in the north." Dany thinks that Jon is her enemy in the north, but Jon says that's not true. "I am not your enemy, but the Night King and the army of the dead is your true enemy." Now, obviously, no one believes him, obviously. But Jon says that the White Walkers, the Night King, and the army of the dead are all real. And if they get past the wall and we're here fighting over this and that, then we are all finished. Dany goes, into a self-centered soliloquy about how about how she suffered as a child and how she suffered, and she has faith in herself, and she believes that she should be the queen of the seven kingdoms. But Jon tells her, you'll be ruling over a graveyard if we don't defeat the Night King. Tyrion says, we are already fighting Cersei right now and can't help Jon against the White Walkers. I mean, you know Tyrion. All Tyrion cares about is defeating Cersei. He's made it so clear. That's all he really cares about, is defeating Cersei. Then Davos speaks up for Jon, saying that if it was your destiny to be a queen, then it was his destiny to be a king. You know, using her double standard against her, which was a very clever ploy on Davos' part. Then he breaks down Jon's story and all he suffered until Jon eventually stops him. Davos says, if we don't put aside our enmities and work together, we will all die, and it won't matter whose bones sit upon the Iron Throne. Tyrion says, if it doesn't matter, then you should just kneel and pledge your swords to Daenerys. Jon says, there is no time for this. There's no time for any of that. He asks her, why should I kneel for you anyway? Jon tells her, I don't know who you are, and your claim only rests with your father, and my father fought to overthrow him. The Northmen entrusted me with the North, not you, and he will continue to be the leader of the North for as long as he can. Dany, still goes on her tirade saying that she's the queen, and that because Jon won't kneel, then he is considered a traitor, and he and the North is in open rebellion against her. Then Varys comes into the room, whispering in Dany's ear, saying that there is grave news. Dany dismisses Jon and Davos, but Jon asks, am I your prisoner? Dany tells him, not yet. After Jon and Davos leave the room, Varys tells Daenerys that the Dornish allies are either dead or captured. They were dead, they were killed, or they were captured on their way to Dorne. And the Greyjoy allies that we had are also captured. Are also captured and dead, and their ships have been burned, taken, or sunk. Then Dany asks, were all of them captured? Now, before I go on to Theon and the Ironborn, I'm going to talk about Dany for a minute. She said that she was raped during her soliloquy about herself. But it is well known that she loved her husband, and that she was pregnant with his child, and it was hard for her when he died. You can't play the rape card in any circumstance if you wanted to be with the man. You can't do that. And when she said that she was raped, I was really offended by that, because what about the women and men who were raped? You can't say that. I mean, it really offended me, and it offended me for the people who were truly molested. You can't say that you were raped when you wanted to be with him. So for her to just say that was really, really, to me, disrespectful to the people who have suffered abuse. So, I mean, how could she say that? She said that she was raped, and we all know it was by the Dothraki. Why would you say that you were raped and then bring the people who did rape you across the narrow sea to hurt more people? She's trying to pass herself off as this peace-loving person, but she's brought the Dothraki here, the same group of people who raped her, who threatened to rape her. So how can you sit up here and say that you are not an invader when you act like you're nothing but an invader. I mean, the hypocrisy of her, the double standards, the self-entitlement. I mean, it all, the arrogance of her, it all just turns me off to Dany. And she really needs to be taught a lesson, in my opinion. The next group of people we go to is Theon and the Ironborn. The Ironborn pull Theon out of the water and onto the deck. They ask him if Yara is dead. Theon says that Euron has her. They ask him, you saw him take her and you got away? And then Theon responds by saying that he tried to help her but couldn't. Then the Ironborn say, if you tried to help her, you wouldn't be here right now. And then they leave him laying there on the deck. I think it's really ironic that their ship had no damage to it. You didn't see any burns or any kind of damage to their ship. And it seems to me like they ran away just like Theon did. So the next group of people we go to is Euron, Yara, Ellaria, Tyenn, the citizens of King's Landing, Cersei, Jaime, Qyburn, and the Mountain. Euron is on horseback riding through the cheering city. Yara, Ellaria, and Tyenn are chained up behind him. They are cheering Euron's name, they're clapping, they're smiling, they're laughing, and they're blowing kisses at him, and he is blowing kisses back. He is loving every minute of this. He is loving this fanfare. You can see it in him. He says that this is the life. Look at this. They're cheering for a Greyjoy. Then he pulls Yara over to him by the chains and says that this is getting him hard and excited. Then he taunts Yara about Theon abandoning her and calls him a twat. As they move through the city, Yara, Ellaria, and Tyenn are spat at, insulted, and have things thrown at them. It's very much reminiscent of Cersei's walk of shame. And they are all completely broken and humiliated. Euron is now riding through the throne room, and he gets off his horse and he drags Ellaria. He drags Ellaria and Tyenn forward. Ellaria sees the Mountain there and is heartbroken that he's still alive. Euron says, please accept this gift on behalf of the loyal subjects of the Iron Islands, and throws Ellaria and Tyenn before Cersei. Then he says, I give you something that no other man was able to give. Looking right at Jaime as he's saying it. He says, I bring you justice for your murdered daughter. Ellaria spits at Cersei, and she does nothing but smile. Cersei tells Euron and everyone in the court that Euron is indeed the greatest sea captain on the 14 seas, and that he has proven himself a true friend to the crown. Euron whispers to Cersei that she deserves more than a friend, and then Cersei tells him that and you deserve a proper reward for your heroism. Euron says, there's only one reward that I want. And then Cersei says, you will have your heart's desire once the war is won. Cersei stands up and says, with Euron Greyjoy commanding the naval forces, and with Jaime Lannister leading our armies, the sons and daughters of Westeros will defend our country. Euron then talks to Jaime, saying that there's nothing like the love of the people, but you wouldn't know anything about that, would you, Jaime? Then Jaime says, the same mob spat at my sister not too long ago, and they would cheer to see your head on a spike if you turn against us. Euron says that he would like some advice from Jaime once they have time to talk. He asks Jaime, does she like it gentle or rough? And then he asks him, does she like a finger up her bum? Oh, God. Euron is so gross in this. He's just he's a disgusting pig in this. Jaime, steps towards him in anger, but Euron, quiets him by saying, not now, we'll talk later. Euron then bows to Cersei and then walks out of the throne room with his Ironborn and Yara as his hostage. Now, down in the black cells, Cersei and Qyburn and the Mountain are all there, with Ellaria and Tyene chained to the wall and gagged. Cersei tells them that she knows exactly how you're feeling. She was there when Oberyn died. He was beautiful, and no one moved like him, and no one handled a spear like him. He was, complimenting Oberyn. She remembers Ellaria's screams when the Mountain crushed his skull, and in that moment she realized how much Ellaria loved him. Cersei says if Oberyn hadn't taunted the Mountain, he would have won. Now Oberyn is buried somewhere, and Sir Gregor is stronger than ever. Cersei says you can't know how bad it is losing a daughter until you experience it for yourself. She confesses to them that she breastfed Marcella instead of giving her to a wet nurse because she couldn't bear to see Marcella in another woman's arms. She says Marcella got to have the mother that Cersei didn't have. And she asks Ellaria, who is gagged, why did you take her from me? Ellaria can't answer because, she has a gag in her mouth. Ellaria, can't answer because she's gagged. Cersei then walks over to Tyene and compliments her on her beauty. Ellaria tries to speak, but Cersei cannot. But she cannot. Cersei said that you chose to murder my daughter, and I bet you felt powerful in that moment. Then she walks over to Ellaria saying, do you feel powerful now? She says instead of sleeping at night, she stays up thinking of ways to kill her enemies. She thought of having Sir Gregor either crush Ellaria or Tyene's skull, but she thought that it was too quick and too messy. Then she takes the gag off of Tyene and then kisses her hard and deep. Ellaria realizes that her daughter has now been poisoned. Cersei tells Ellaria that Qyburn is a clever man and he figured out what poison you used to kill my daughter. Qyburn says it's called the Long Farewell. Cersei then wipes off her lips and then drinks the antidote to the poison. Qyburn says it may take hours, it may take days, but death is certain. Cersei tells Ellaria that you will die in this cell. And if you try to starve yourself, then we will force food down your throat. You will live right here in this cell and watch your daughter die, and you will also watch her body rot and collapse into bones and dust. Then she orders that the torches be lit every few hours so she won't miss a thing. Cersei, Qyburn, and the Mountain all walk away, and Ellaria, tries to reach out Tyene and vice versa, but they're chained to the wall and they can't reach each other. It was a really, really psychological and brutal scene. It was really a great scene. One of Cersei's best, actually. It had the feel of the Game of Thrones. It really, really did. It has the feel of the book series. Great scene with Cersei. The next group of people we go to is Cersei, Jaime, a serving woman, and the representative from the Iron Bank. Jaime pours himself some wine when Cersei comes into the room. She kisses him deeply, then she gets down on her knees and gives him fellatio. The next morning, they are in bed together, and a serving woman knocks on the door. Jaime is in bed and tells Cersei not to open the door because they can't be seen together like that. But Cersei doesn't care at all, and she opens the door anyway. The serving woman says that a representative from the Iron Bank is here to speak with you. Cersei says, okay, and then she orders the handmaid to bring new sheets for the bed. Then later on, Cersei chats with the man from the Iron Bank. And long story short, they want their money back. But Cersei knows that the Iron Bank would rather deal with Cersei than with Daenerys, because Daenerys broke the slave trade. And the Iron Bank had their hands in that pie. So without the slave trade, they've lost a lot of money. So in actuality, they want to back Cersei, but they want their money back too. Cersei says, give me 2 weeks. Stay in the court, be my guest for 2 weeks, and when you leave for Braavos, the debt will be completely paid. The next group of people we go to is Tyrion, Jon, and Daenerys. Jon and Tyrion are on a cliff. Jon says that he realizes that he's a prisoner on this island. Tyrion tries to patronize Jon, but he's not buying it. Jon thinks that no one believes him, but Tyrion says that he does. He knows that Jon and Mormont saw the White Walkers, and he knows them both to be honest men. Jon asks, how can I convince everyone that the White Walkers are coming? But Tyrion says he doesn't know. Tyrion says it's more of a comfort focusing on the Game of Thrones and familiar monsters like Cersei than dealing with the White Walkers. Jon wants to leave the island so he can help his people face what's about to happen in the north. But he tells them that he can't do it here, and he feels like a fool for coming here and leaving his people. Tyrion tries to bolster Dany in Jon's eyes by saying that she's not an invader but a protector. Then Tyrion says, do you have a reasonable request? And a reasonable request that I can take to my queen instead of just handing over her swords to Jon. Now in the room of the painted table, Tyrion tries to convince Dany to let go of the dragon glass. He says, let Jon mine the glass and let him make weapons from it. He says that the dragon glass can kill a White Walker. Dany doesn't know if she can trust in the existence of the White Walkers, but Tyrion trusts Jon because he made the effort to come all the way out here. He says that you should give up the dragon glass, keep him busy and here on the island while they handle Casterly Rock. Jon then comes out later on to speak to Daenerys, and he says that he's amazed by the dragons. Daenerys says that she named them after her brothers, Rhaegar and Viserys, whom are both now dead. After another one of her speeches about her taking over the 7 kingdoms, blah, 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 she eventually agrees to let him have the dragon glass. Now, Jon asks her, do you now believe me that there is a threat coming in the north? And she just tells him to get to work. Dany really needs to get over herself. I mean, she needs to realize that it's not all about her. There were other people here. There were other people who suffered. There were other people in danger. There were other monarchs. And she really needs to get over herself. The next group of people we go to is Sansa, Bronze John Royce, Lord Baelish, Maester Woken, Bran, and Mira. They all realize, with the exception of Bran and Mira, that there isn't enough food to feed everyone in the castle. She orders every castle in the north to bring down grain to Winterfell. Then she orders that the breastplates be lined with leather to better withstand the cold. Then her and Baelish talk alone, saying that and he tells her that it's not wise to only look to the north. He says, if you turn your back on Cersei, but then she interrupts him and pretends not to be listening to his advice. But we all know that even though she's very angry and hurt by him, she still does take heed of his advice. She pretends and she gives him the cold shoulder. And then he tells her, fight everyone in your mind. Everyone is a friend. Everyone is an enemy. Prepare for the unexpected. Prepare for every scenario. And if you live like that, then nothing will be a surprise to you. Just then a serving man appears, calling for Sansa to come to the gate. She goes to the gate and she sees her brother Bran. She cries and they hug each other, in a wonderful, nice reunion. In the Godswood, underneath the weirwood tree, Bran tries to explain himself to Sansa about him being the three-eyed raven. He says that he pretty much knows everything that's happened long time ago, long before his time, but it's all in fragments. It's all in fragments, and he needs to be ready. He needs to be ready for this so he can face the White Walkers. She doesn't understand any of it, but then he goes and tells her that I know that you were married underneath this tree to Ramsay Bolton. You looked beautiful that night in your wedding gown. After she hears that, she pretty much just runs away from Bran. And by Bran, reminding her of Ramsay and the abuse that she suffered while she was married to him, it's pretty much gonna drive a wedge even further between Sansa and Peter Baelish. The next group of people we go to is Samwell, Jorah, and the Archmaester. The Archmaester is examining Jorah. He apparently has been cured of the grayscale by Samwell. The Archmaester examines him and asks him if his skin hurts, and Jorah says yes, but not as bad as it was before. The Archmaester can plainly see that the upper infected layer of skin had been cut away, and the underlying skin was treated with ointments and healing lotions. He says that the infection is no longer active. Jorah tries to cover for Samwell, but the Archmaester is not fooled. He says that Jorah has been healed and that he is free to go. The Archmaester wants to speak with Samwell later on in the evening. As Sam and Jorah talk, Samwell asks him, where are you going to go? Jorah says that he has surrendered to this disease and thought that he would die from it. It was Dany who convinced him to heal himself, and he feels that his only place in the world is by her side. He owes his life to Daenerys and to Samwell for curing him. Samwell tells him that your father, Jeor Mormont, the former commander of the Night's Watch, saved him more than once, and it was only decent that he treat and help his son the best way he could. Sam and Jorah hope to cross paths again, and then Samuel offers his hand in friendship, and they shake hands, and Samuel leaves. I mean, it was a really, really big moment for Jorah, because I bet he thought that he would never be touched again. I bet he thought he would never be cured again. And to have someone reach out and to shake his hand, knowing that the disease, he was finally rid of that horrible disease, probably made him feel like $1,000,000. And I'm glad that Jorah is free of that grayscale. Such a disgusting disease. Later on, the Archmaester is questioning Samuel. And Samuel admits that he did do the procedure, knowing that it was dangerous and forbidden. The Archmaester told him that if you could have infected yourself and others, and you could have devastated the entire citadel. Then the Archmaester says that that man is still alive because of you, and that you should be proud of yourself. Then the Archmaester says, I'm not going to put you out, but pretty much you're going to have to copy these rotting books and scrolls. Putting him back to work with the grunt work. But you know what? It's better than him cleaning out dirty chamber pots. So, good for Sam. The next group of people we go to is Daenerys, Tyrion, Missandei, and Varys. Dany wants Euron's navy sunk, and Varys says that it would be very unwise to send the rest of the armada after him, but Dany wants to send the dragons. Tyrion says in order for us to use the dragons, you would have to be out there commanding them yourself, because no one else can use the dragons. He says that Euron's navy could be anywhere, and you will be alone out there in the middle of the sea for God knows how long. She says that she wouldn't be alone, but that her dragons would be with her. She thinks that no one can do anything to them. Missandei says it would only take one arrow to kill you, and then that would be the end. And Tyrion says that she's right, that Dany is too important, and it is just too dangerous. Then the discussion turns to Casterly Rock. Tyrion tells the tale of how he thinks things are going to be at the Battle of Casterly Rock. He says the Unsullied will march on the gate, and many Unsullied will die. And then he said that he wanted a few of them to go into a cove, to a tunnel that he built when he built the sewers of Casterly Rock. Now, as he is saying this, the events are happening in real time. The Unsullied managed to win over Casterly Rock, but they all realize that no one is there. Grey Worm asks his fellow companions, there are supposed to be other people here. There's too few people here. Where is everyone? And then they hear an explosion. And then Grey Worm looks out over the sunset sea, and there is Euron on his boat with his navy, and they are destroying the rest of Dany's fleet. The Unsullied are completely stranded. They are stranded. They have nothing but miles to walk. They have no food, they have no water, they have no provisions, they have no money. And they are just stranded in Casterly Rock, and they are going to have to walk all the way across Westeros and catch a ship just to get back to Dragonstone. It was a brilliant move by Jaime Lannister. Absolutely brilliant. And I would be very surprised if the Unsullied lived. No money, no horses to carry them, no protection against the cold, no money. The Unsullied were annihilated, And you could see it in Grey Worm's face. He knew that he was in trouble. Now, the last scene of the night belongs to Jaime, Olenna, the Tarleys, Bronn, and the rest of the Lannister army. The rest of the Lannister army is marching toward Highgarden. Olenna can see them coming from her balcony. Highgarden is easily taken. And Jaime is walking through the castle and through the town and the castle to get to Olenna's chambers. She has officially lost everything. She's lost her family, she's lost her home, she's lost all of her money and her connections, and she's pretty much alone. Jaime comes in and pours them both a cup of wine, and they talk about what happened. Jaime says that we used the same trick that Robb Stark used on me in the Battle of the Whispering Wood. That he used Casterly Rock as a decoy, and then had Euron's navy follow Dany's fleet. They put like maybe 100 people on the walls of Casterly Rock to fool the Unsullied into thinking that the town was filled with people. And then when they finally took over the place, they realized that they had nothing. And then he had Euron and his navy attack their ships, stranding them in Casterly Rock with nothing. Then Olenna talks about Cersei and how horrible she is and how imaginative she is. Much more imaginative than Olenna ever was. And then she calls Cersei a disease and regrets her actions in spreading her. And then she says, she tells Jaime that woman will be the death of you, and you will regret what you've done for her. Then they talk about Olenna's death, and then they talk about Olenna's death, and then Jaime says Cersei wanted you to die in some horrible, gruesome fashion, but he talked Cersei out of it. Jaime then pours poison into her wine cup, and then she proceeds to drink it. Now, in her death scene, she tells Jaime that it was her who poisoned Joffrey on his wedding day. That it was her who got the poison, and that she did it to protect her family. Then she puts down her cup after she's drank the wine and the poison, and she tells Cersei, I want her to know that it was me. Jaime is stunned. He is just shocked. He is in absolute silence, but he knows that what Olenna said was true. And he just eventually walks away. And that is how the story ended. A great episode, very ironic. Very ironic in the fact that Dany sees herself as a peace-loving ruler when she's brought nothing but Dothraki heathens onto the shores of Westeros. It was very ironic that Olenna died by poison. It was very ironic that Tyene died by poisoning when they are both poisoners themselves. And it was just irony filled throughout this episode. And I thought that was a nice touch to the series and to the episode. So thank you very much. Thank you so much. My next video will be called The Spoils of War. Make sure you come back for my next video. My MVP of the episode is Cersei. Cersei has just been doing a wonderful job. She has taken down Dorne. She's taken down Highgarden. She's got Euron on her side. She's rectifying her situation with the Iron Bank, and I love her outfits as well. She is just doing an amazing job in these last 3 episodes. So because of that, I have made her my MVP. Thank you for watching, everyone, and make sure you come back next week for the new episode of Game of Thrones. If you like my video, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will be back next week. Enjoy your life as I do, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so much.